My name is Ellen Nowak. I am the chairperson for the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin. Last fall, I was intimately involved with the construction of the comments that the state of Wisconsin submitted to the EPA, and I submitted those comments together with our analysis with my written testimony for the record. Wisconsin is a manufacturing-heavy state, with industrial customers representing over 1/3 of energy sales, and more than 60% of our state's power generation comes from coal. If the problems in the Clean Power Plan are not remedied, the work Wisconsin has done to restore our manufacturing sector will be threatened. As a regulator, I also remain concerned about the reliability of the grid, considering the dramatic, fast shift in energy production required by this proposal. With that background, and because of the far-reaching impacts of the EPA's Clean Power Plan, we brought together an interdisciplinary team. This team consisted of Public Service Commission experts in utility rate modeling, economics, environmental regulation, and engineering, along with Department of Natural Resource experts in environmental regulation, particularly the Clean Air Act. Using a standard accepted utility modeling program, we forecasted the cost of this regulation under a number of scenarios with varying assumptions about the future. Candidly, our team felt that taking into account the impacts of this regulation on every family and every business in the United States is the kind of analysis that should have been done by the EPA before making such a proposal. The results of our analysis have been provided to the committee. Here are two highlights. First, this single federal regulation will cost Wisconsin ratepayers between $3.1 billion and $13.4 billion. This is only a production cost increase. It does not include necessary upgrades to the gas and electric transmission infrastructure that will add significantly to the cost of compliance. These costs are also on top of the $11.6 billion in carbon dioxide reduction measures that Wisconsin ratepayers have paid for since 2000. Not only do we not receive credit for these investments under the Clean Power Plan, but the proposal actually penalizes Wisconsin for being an early actor. Second, as our assumptions about this rule became more realistic, the cost rose. For instance, would you assume that this massive increase in reliance on natural gas would drive natural gas prices higher? That very reasonable assumption significantly raises the cost of this regulation. At the heart of the matter, we question the very foundation of this proposal. The EPA constructed 4 building blocks, each of which was evaluated independently. Then, to determine the foundation for each state's target reduction, the best system of emission reduction, or BSER, they added the carbon dioxide reductions resulting from each of those individual building blocks. Unfortunately, the EPA ignored how the building blocks would affect each other when all 4 were implemented together. For example, increasing reliance on natural gas, as suggested by Building Block 2, would severely decrease the heat rate improvement achievable in the coal fleet to far below the 6% required under Building Block 1. Furthermore, EPA used indiscriminate and unsupportable approaches to determine the 4 building blocks. For example, Building Block 1 applies a national level heat rate improvement to each coal-fired plant, regardless of the ability of an individual plant to realize these gains. In contrast, Building Block 3, the state renewable goals, takes a regional approach and is driven by the average renewable portfolio standards found in states arbitrarily grouped together. As it is currently written, under any previous interpretation of the Clean Air Act, the BSER system proposed by the EPA is actually not a system at all. First, the building blocks are outside of the coordination and control of the emission unit owner or operator. Second, they are not recognizable systems of work or practice or control that can be applied to an emission unit. And third, they cannot guarantee a certain conclusive greenhouse gas emission reduction when implemented as a whole. To further highlight this point, engineers at the Public Service Commission modeled the EPA plan and concluded the building blocks would deliver a 15.6% reduction in carbon dioxide emissions. This is a far cry from the 34% that the EPA claims is attainable and necessary for Wisconsin to comply. Finally, the compliance timelines in the proposal are unrealistic and unworkable. The lead time required for planning, permitting, and construction, not to mention the EPA's own requirements, will require the full proposed compliance period through the end of 2030. In conclusion, I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to speak to this esteemed committee today. You will find my submitted written testimony delves much deeper into the issues of modeling and the technical aspects of the rule that we find troubling. We can all agree on the need to protect our environment, but this proposed rule does not strike the right balance in protecting public health, reliability of the grid, and economic security. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Nowak, and